and the big service is 10:30. So, yeah, it's all make it.
All right. So this stuff, this information that we're going to go through is based on this book. It's just a phase, so don't miss it. This is a resource specifically designed for churches and children's pastors, student pastors, all of that stuff. And I've been diving into it recently and spending hours kind of studying it and trying to improve. In my role as children's pastor, and we're going to try to do our best to condense what we've learned through this into the next 25 minutes, half hour or so. And so we will talk about a specific resource for parents that's connected with this, but I want to just give you a taste of this, but I do want to give them credit, obviously, for the information that we're about to share. All right?
Okay, so this is just an example of what we're going to basically talk about and just the different steps and how preschool is one way, elementary is another way, middle school and high school. And so we'll only kind of touch on high school a tiny bit because I feel like looking around there are some of you who have older kids, so hopefully that'll help you too, but we'll definitely focus on the first three a lot. So the next one, right?
Yeah, here's the parental emphasis in each of these phases. Embrace would be one for the preschool age. Engage their interest in elementary. Affirming them in middle school, and then mobilizing them for high school. That's kind of where like our emphasis of as parents that for each stage. That's kind of the goal or kind of the mindset that we're looking at through each of these stages.
Mm-hmm. And this is just an example of like how fast time goes. I'm sure all of you feel this depending on how old your kids are. But with preschool, it just kind of shows like you basically have the whole day. Unless you work outside of the home, you have a lot of time with those kids. And so spending that time with them, taking that time to, basically do what you're doing right now, hold them. Like there's a lot of times, I can't remember if I'm talking about that later, but you feel like exhausted and so tired and like, can I just see an adult or have an adult conversation? But like I ache for those moments now. Like Zoe got tired the other day and like wanted to lay her head on me, and I was like, yeah. Like Karis would never. She'd be like, I'll lay over here, don't whatever. But she is in high school, just for any of you who don't know. But then elementary, we have like 6 hours where we have morning time. Then when we're driving them to school, unless you homeschool, you have longer. But, driving, it's funny because Tim drives the girls except for one day a week. And I like love the day that I get to drive them to school. But Karis has just started where she's like, I don't want to talk. And I'm like, wait a second, what? Like, this is where we're going to have like a heart to heart, like, so just taking advantage of that, like even in the afternoon when you pick them up or when you see them, like be ready to have like some conversations and how was your day? And, that can be tricky too. The older they get, the less words you get from them. And so learning what questions to ask. But then in middle school, kind of the same, but just spending, it's an encouragement from us, like find things that you can relate to your kids with, like pray with them before bed. Like that's something we try to do together with our girls separately. We go in their rooms and we pray with them, no matter how old they are. Like it's just something we always do. We used to sing to them, and Zoe just, I will not tell you when, but it has been within the last 2 years. She was like, no offense, but like, could you not sing anymore? So Zoe is in 5th grade. So there's a little, for those of you who might not know, and I was like heartbroken. I'm like, wait, what? Like, so they grow out of that, and so just enjoy that time when you have it. And it's hard to remember that and to even like know that. And devotions at mealtime, I still remember that with my parents. There were days where we didn't have them, but at least a couple nights a week we would talk through a devotional or pray through a verse or something. And just making that time, your kids will remember it. And so even if they act like they don't want it, they'll remember it. And so it's just an encouragement.
Yeah, keep it simple, keep it short, and keep it consistent is what for devotions at mealtime or whatever time is you guys find works best for you. But just that time, I mean, it really, whew, man, as you guys know, it flies by. And in each of those stages, as you have less time with them each day, and they have more freedom as they grow up, your parenting and your style, it changes with each phase. Okay, so this little chart recognizes. I don't know if you can read it or if my big head's in the way. This says positional influence, and down here relational influence. Okay. Positional influence, as you can see, it goes down. That positional influence, as a when they're babies and when they're toddlers, it's like you're in control. They're not going anywhere. They're not doing anything without you. It's you can get away with because I said so, right? Like you can do that, and so as a teenager, you can try that, and you can maybe control externally, but you're not reaching their heart with that. So your positional influence is going down just because you're the parent, and I said so. The older they get, the less that works, right? Now, don't get the impression like, oh, as they grow up, just let go of the reins and let them do, they're 13 years old, they got to figure it out. No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. But I am saying your parenting techniques and your that positional influence is changing. And so you've got to adapt, right? Right? Like think of this, Blockbuster never adapted, right? And where are they now? They were one of the leading companies in America, and they're gone because they never adapted to the internet world, right? The digital world. And so we don't want to be the Blockbuster of parents, right? Because we never adapt. Relational influence, it grows, okay? So think about this: as they age, right? They're going to resist some more. They're going to resist more. You're going to be like, oh man, is my child rebellious? And they're going to fight back more, and they're going to talk back more, and they're going to, why, my friends are allowed to do this. And it's going to be all of that. And so that positional influence is shrinking, but your relational influence, even in those struggles, you're building that relational influence, and you're in more and deeper ways, you're able to connect with their hearts, and you're able to influence their hearts, because you realize the older your kids get, the less control you have. It's just true. And so as you're doing it, you're like you're slowly letting go. I had a conversation with Karis the other day. It's like, and I just said, Karis, you're our firstborn, and it was kind of after it was like a little bit after like a disagreement or whatever, and all of that stuff. And I just said to Karis, I said, Karis, like, you're our firstborn. We're learning this too. And like we're trying, we hope like we love you, and we're trying our best, and we're not going to do things perfectly, but like we're trying to let go, but it's like hard for us too. Like we're growing in this as well.
I
know it's
can
a
I
chance.
say something?
Yeah.
And I think just from somebody who's learning and reading a lot of books, I'm thankful for, again, mentor moms like I was reading today in a Bible study we're doing together, and just being willing to listen. Like Karis coming to us and saying, I am in high school, and like, you know, she wants to grow up, and trying to figure out, like, God, give us wisdom in what areas to loosen the reins and what areas, to be really careful in. And so, but having that conversation with her and like saying, I hear what you're saying, and we will pray about that, and maybe you are a little bit right. And I think even just me being willing to be, that took a lot of humility. I'm not going to lie. There's something about, I don't know if you guys feel that as parents, like you're just kind of like, no, like if I admit that, then she'll think, whatever. But it softened her, and the conversation was just so encouraging. I don't know how, that's just a small little testimony, I guess, is just being willing to stay humble and acknowledge that, like, I don't know it all either, and like, let's pray about what God wants us to do. And I don't know. I still don't know the answer to the question, so but we're working through it.
That's true. Yeah, and as they grow towards more freedom and as they expand in their freedom, you have different opportunities to where your positional influence as a parent and your relational influence as a parent that intersects, and that's where your influence lies. Okay, so you getting to know your kids more deeply as they mature and develop and think through things on a deeper level, and you get to process with them. That's, you get to know them on a deeper level. All right, let's go to the what and the why of each stage. Okay, we mentioned this earlier. But I want to kind of dive in a little bit more layers of this, okay? In the preschool age, represented by the tricycle, embrace their physical needs, okay? It's very physical, right? Like Stephanie is a living example in the hallway. She's holding her precious baby boy and rocking, right? Like, it's like you're just there, right? Like you're holding them all the time. They can't do, I mean, when they're obviously newborn, they can't do anything by themselves, right? You're doing everything, okay? So, and at that age, it's very, very physical. The hugs and the snuggles and the holding them and, all of that stuff. And that's so important to lay that foundation. Why is that important? Because it established physical trust, okay? You're without words, you're building trust in your child's heart in those moments, okay? In elementary age, represented by the bicycle, engage their personal interest, okay? Why? Why do we do that? Why are we interested in what they're interested in? We just went to Disney last week, and I think on the ride to school we were talking about these old like Disney Junior cartoons. They remembered them. Karis used to love Jake and the Neverland Pirates, and Zoe, I think, like Sophia the First or Elena of Avalor or whatever. We were talking about those, and I would sit and watch. And I hated every minute of the show, right? Right? Like, how many of you guys know
No
Bluey, right? Like,
no.
I saw my first Bluey. But what you're doing as a parent, right? You're not necessarily, I've heard that some parents love that show Bluey, but
Amanda's a part of it right
there you go.
How do
Okay. But the point is you're meeting them, you're interested in what they're interested in. And that is what you're doing is you're earning relational credit, okay? Think of it this way. You are putting deposits into your relational bank account because pretty soon they're going to hit middle school and stuff's going to change and you're going to have to make some withdrawals, right? Like it's going to get a little tougher. So you're building up the savings account, while it's not that it's easy, but they're more open to you. And then in middle school when they start changing and you start to put your arm around them and they go like that, right? Like, all right. And they're just like, Mom, Dad, please don't embarrass us. Okay. It's changing, but you're putting in that elementary age, kindergarten through fifth grade, you're earning that relational credit. You're putting those deposits into that relational bank account because there's going to be some difficult times and some withdrawals in middle school and high school. Okay, in middle school, that's sixth through eighth grade. What you're doing, you're affirming their personal journey. Okay, you're affirming their personal journey. That word affirm is so crucial. Why? Because kids that age are so insecure. I mean, how many of you can remember middle school? Oh, honestly, seventh grade was one of the worst years of my life, and nothing bad happened. It was all just in here. It wasn't it was just seventh grade. And I remember it, and I remember thinking when I walked into a room, people would be like, oh, who's that freak? That was in my mind. I was so insecure. And all middle schoolers go through it. And so your job as a parent is affirming them, affirming their just affirming their value. And what you're doing, you're proving relational commitment, okay? And here's why that's key, right? This phase is difficult. They're difficult, right? Stuff starts to change. Their armpits start to stink, right? They go through this awkward phase, right? It's whatever. And what you're doing in those difficult moments, in those difficult, frustrating moments, you're proving your relational commitment to them. Okay, so without that difficulty, without that struggle, think of it this way: it's a reframing of that struggle. It's an opportunity for you to prove your commitment to your kid, what your kid is going to need, right? And then high school, 9th through 12th grade, mobilize their lifelong potential, okay? And once again, that doesn't mean you let go of the reins. Oh, you turn 16, here's the keys to the car, and, have fun in Vegas or whatever. Don't do that, right? Don't do that. But what you are doing, you are letting go. You are letting go of them some. You're really leveraging your relational influence, okay, at that phase, okay? Because soon, man, they're gonna be off to college, and and honestly, even at that stage, even before they leave the house, they have connection to literally the whole world, right, through their phone, okay? Monitor your kids' phones, check your kids' text messages. We have, put internet safety account, monitor software like Covenant Eyes or whatever. Do that. Don't just hand them a phone because they're in for a world of trouble, right? Because man, I'm so glad we didn't grow up in a world where I had access to a crazy smart computer that connected all over the world when I was 16 years old. But they have access to it, right? They have access to it. So I'll turn it over.
If you do need help with that, he is good at knowing things. So just a little blurb. If any of you parents are like, what do I put on my kid's phone? Yeah. Okay, this next one with preschool, they're just clearly, how many of you have kids baby through 4 years old in here? Okay, so a decent amount of you have kids in this age. And so, this is just saying what they're asking. The child is asking, am I safe? Am I able? Am I okay? And so it's just, again, like he said, we're just establishing that trust. You're loving on those kids, and I just can't say it enough because I'm out of that stage. There are times where you're probably like, why do you keep staring at my baby or my preschooler? It's because I just want to hold them all because I'm out of that phase, and I miss it because it was so special. And so just really try to enjoy it is all I can say, is try to enjoy it on those long days. Just remember, it's it's going to go by fast and you're going to be out of it. And then, look, I'm looking at room out there. And then they'll be older and whatever. And so just enjoy it because they need that time with you to feel safe and secure. So.
All right. In elementary, they are asking the question, do I? Do I? In kindergarten and first grade, they're asking, do I have your attention? Okay? Do I have your attention? And so you're as a parent, your emphasis or your responsibility or whatever, not that you have a myriad of responsibilities, but one of the things that drives all the responsibilities that you do is you're demonstrating interest in your child's progress. Okay, so when they come to you and they talk to you about school, man, get wide-eyed, ask questions, be interested in them. And I know, like, sometimes, right, like you're coming home from work and you're tired and you're stressed and you just want to like watch Sports Center or whatever, and it's like taking a deep breath, praying before you hit that garage door opener. God, help me to be a good father. Help me to be a good mother. Help me to give me strength to just love on my kids in this time. And so they're asking, do I have your attention? So honestly, right? Like we talked about cell phones for kids, cell phones for adults is a struggle, right? Like they're asking the question, do I have your attention? And sometimes, right, we're like, yeah, yeah, whatever, like that, right? Like we can get caught in the scroll, right? It's so easy for us to do. So, second and third grade, they're asking, do I have what it takes? Okay, do I have what it takes? They're obviously at that age, they're not going to be perfect in everything, but you're praising persistence and effort, okay? And, your kids might say something like, well, I'm not good at this. I'm not good at this. And one of the things we found is super valuable with our kids is when they say that, we say, no, hold on. You're not good at this yet. And that pushes them to keep trying harder, okay? They're brand new to it, and so they haven't practiced it or they haven't learned it. And so you're emphasizing, hey, don't give up. Keep going on. You're making progress. I see it in you, and you're doing a great job. Fourth and fifth grade, it moves relational. Do I have friends? Okay. So as a parent, it's super helpful making introductions and including peers. Okay. You honestly and I know this. I don't want this to be like a self-serving plug or whatever, because that's not my heart in this. But you have an opportunity, like kids ministry, connecting them with other kids that are coming from Christian families that are man. Take full advantage of that opportunity. Okay, you're connecting kids, your kids with other kids with like-minded families, and so make introductions. Do your best to have kids over or whatever, and or meet at the park or whatever, and because developing those friendships is huge. Get them involved in sports. Get them in relational activities where they can meet peers, because that's the question that they're asking.
Well, and VBS is a really good thing for that, because your kids, it's something that I'm weird and I love sitting down with all the kids, and I spreadsheets like crazy. Well, not really on the computer. I
It's like A Beautiful
handwrite
Mind.
everything.
Like, have you seen that?
And I'm like, this person with this person. Oh, they'll like, and I try to think of leaders. And so anyways, get your kids involved in that. And like, if you have teenagers, have them come and help, because it's just so good. I can't say enough that it's encouraging to watch the kids grow in their relationships. And at the beginning of the summer, I think is awesome too, because it's a good way to start. So, and then middle school with sixth grade, who do I like? And so, who likes me? It's in already in kids' church. It's
And that's
like,
not just opposite
no,
gender.
but I'm saying
But
that anyways
yeah, it's not
because
just boyfriend.
it's very funny.
But
And
yeah.
I'm a bad influence with that because I'm like, ooh, who do you think is cute? Like, I kind of thrive on it. I do. I'm not going to lie. So don't, if your kid comes home and says, Miss Tiffany was like, ooh, I saw you talking to that girl, or ooh, whatever. I do like to be funny like that just because it takes me back to my young days. So I just think and honestly, like, not being too overly, Tim's like, this isn't what we're supposed to talk about. But
You're good. You're good.
don't be too overly into that. But I think letting your kids know, like, it's natural. We just had Christopher Yu on here. And so, like, encouraging, like, those natural God honoring relationships and, like, asking your kid, if your son, is there a girl that you think is pretty, or what do you think is nice about her? What's she do that honors God? You can turn it around because it is a natural thing. And my parents were very strict in dating, but I'm thankful, like, I was able to talk openly about that, and I liked boys all the way through, and found the one main
Okay, there we
perfect
go.
one.
That's right.
But it's just something that I think is really good for parents to be involved in having communication with it. So that was a rabbit trail and just a random. But your kids are insecure and they do want to feel accepted. And so another thing, just bringing in kids' church with this conversation, there are times where we notice kids sitting separate or something. And so if you ever, as a parent, feel like maybe we don't know everything that happens. And so there have been parents who, like, during, whatever game time or during, VBS when they're out there, there's so many kids that you can't hear every conversation. So please tell us if there's something that's said or happens. We want to know to be able to help. And when we know that, it's so cool and special because there have been girls who are like, I can see some looks across the room and I'm like, whoa, I just saw you shoot that girl a look, like, don't even look at me. And I was like, okay. So, and then I had a conversation and they opened up and we prayed together, like the three of us and it was cool. And they still talk about, like, how they're doing with that friendship. And so I'm thankful for those opportunities. And so I would just encourage you as parents to get involved in that and to know, like, they're not going to tell us everything. There's stuff that have happened to our girls and we found out, like, a year later, something horrible that was said to her on the playground. And I'm like, why didn't you tell me that? And she held it in because that was her personality. And so your kid's personality and what they're holding in, and maybe they come home and they spill it all. But just being available and letting them know that you love all their unique qualities, because nobody is perfect and alike.
All right, our time is slipping by, but high school, I just want to mention this real quick, let you guys fill in the blanks. Ninth grade, they're asking, where do I belong? And our role as parents is to help connect teens because they'll learn to value community, okay? Once again, the youth group upstairs, they're doing Survivor and all of that stuff. That relational equity is huge. 10th grade, why should I believe? Okay, they're starting to really kind of, they're starting to develop critical thinking and maybe stories that they've heard since they were 4. They're like, why? Okay, why should I believe that? Those are important questions. And so do your best to listen carefully and ask questions to help them clarify values. And then 11th grade, that's when they want to start making a difference, okay? There's something kicks in where you want to make a difference. And so use that phase in their development to answer the question, or they're asking the question, how can I matter? Okay? So provide opportunities to lead and serve. We do that in some structure in our kids' church, and we have a ton of teen volunteers that makes things happen. Get them involved in leadership up upstairs in the teen room and stuff like that, because they're learning to lead and serve. This is when they, even getting jobs and understanding how that happens and how the beauty of work and the value of work, because they're refining skills during that phase. And then 12th, obviously, they're thinking about college or next steps or whatever. They're asking, what will I do? Okay. So encourage experiences and simplify options, meaning like talk through them and break it down. Okay, like what do you think? Okay, I want to be an engineer. Well, why do you want to be an engineer? Are you interested in math, or do you or whatever? And just help them break some of those huge, complicated decisions that they're making that seem overwhelming. Help simplify some of those options. Okay, so hopefully this has been just a helpful overview for some of these phases. I know there's a lot more that we could cover, and here's the resource that I want to recommend. It's called Parenting Your Books. Okay, so there's 18 of them, okay? There's 18 of them. Parenting your infant, parenting your 2-year-old, parenting your 3-year-old. We have parenting your 5th grade and parenting your 9th grader, because we have a 5th grader and a 9th grader, okay? These are more, it's not like, there's some reading, but it's more like workbook, journaling kind of thing, like helping to answer some questions and help you think through. It's, you can find it at ParentQ, like Q ball, like CUE.org, I'm sure you can find it on Amazon or whatever. It's Reggie Joyner and Krysten Ivy are the authors. Okay, and so it's going to work through this paradigm or this paradigm or whatever that we kind of work through. And so just super helpful. There's more resources online. There's a ParentQ app that can give you resources as well, all related to this information. And so we are out of time, I guess. Do we have maybe a couple questions or anything like that? I know we tried to breeze through this or whatever. But it was a lot of information to cover. Hopefully it was helpful and encouraging and not super overwhelming. But are there any questions? Okay. All right. Well, if you do have any questions, obviously we want you to know that we're here and that we care. That's why we do these meetings. That's why we serve in kids ministry. We're here to support you as parents. And so hopefully our prayer is that we can come alongside of you as you raise your kids to love and serve Jesus and help provide some of these opportunities, help provide support for you, help provide support and instruction for your kids and all of that, and Bible teaching, and just a great community where they can grow and deepen friendships and as they mature through these different phases. Okay, so we love you guys. We're praying for you. We're here for you. And so I'm just going to close in prayer, and then I'll let you guys get out of here, I guess, or whatever. You can hang out if you have any questions or whatever. We'll hang out for a bit. All right. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this day, and thank you for just the opportunity to just grow together. And Lord, none of us have all the answers. None of us are the perfect parent, and none of us have perfect kids. And so, Lord, I just pray that we would rely on you, because you're a perfect God. You're a perfect Father. And so, Lord, you're working in our kids' lives. You're convicting them. You're whispering to their hearts that they're loved, that they're valued, that they have a purpose and a plan, that you love them enough to die on the cross for them. And so, Lord, I just pray that you would work in each of our kids' lives. Lord, they each have struggles. There's different relational dynamics.